Hi, my name is Victoria Griswold, and today we will be learning about the social psychological theory of sexual permissiveness. When discussing this theory, we will be analyzing why men rape women. Moreover, why is it that in some societies men are more likely to rape women? It is important to clarify that unlike most psychologists who attribute rape to some sort of psychological disposition, sociologists view rapists as normal individuals who are no different to the average population and attribute the deviant behavior to different societal factors. Although the social psychological theory of sexual permissiveness is not nearly as detailed and critiqued as others in the book, I chose this theory because I believe that it is crucial and incredibly important to discuss since rape in American culture is very prevalent. We do not have to look hard to find how this epidemic affects our society. According to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, 1 out of every 6 American women has been the victim of an attempted or completed rape in her lifetime. 9 out of every 10 victims of rape are female, and every 98 seconds an American is sexually assaulted. That means since I began this presentation, 2 Americans have been assaulted. As a result of these alarming statistics, movements have been established, such as the Me Too movement, which have shed light on the patriarchal industries that have given a pass to the many men who sexually assault and harass women on a day-to-day basis. But both sociologists and psychologists want to gain a better understanding as to why men rape women. One theory is the social psychological theory of sexual permissiveness. In 1971, sociologist Duncan Chappell, along with his colleagues, theorized that there are higher rape rates in societies that are more sexually permissive, where social norms become progressively liberal with the regard to sexual freedom, thus changing members of that society's views on what is considered deviant behavior. But if having consensual, non marital sex is a social norm in America, which makes it increasingly easier to engage in, why do some men still use force to get sexual pleasure? The answer to this question, according to Chappelle, stems from the concept of relative frustration. We see relative frustration in the example when encountering the same experience of being rejected by a woman. The men in a sexually permissive society feel more frustrated than the men in a sexually restrictive society in which premarital and other non-marital sex is prohibited. The theory further explains that if a woman rejects a man in a sexually restrictive society, the man is more likely to take this rejection with a grain of salt because his ego is not being damaged. He is able to justify her rejection by rationalizing that the restrictive society in which they live in precludes the woman from accepting his sexual invitation. She may reject him for the following reasons. A woman is too sexually conservative, she is afraid to engage in non-marital sex, her religion condemns sex of that kind, or that the woman does not want to break the laws against non-marital sex, which tend to be harsh. Basically, he uses these reasons so that he is able to sleep better at night, knowing that his ego is not being jeopardized. However, unlike to the men in a restrictive society, men in a non-traditional, permissive society experience relative frustration because they are not able to stroke their egos with the same kind of rationalization. Rather, the man is more likely to take the woman's rejection as a personal attack on his self-esteem, resulting in feeling like a failure because he could not allure the woman to engage in his sexual favors. This feeling of failure turns into sexual frustration, which is the frustration that is caused by the discrepancy between a person's desired and achieved sexual activity. Thus, some men in a permissive society act on these frustrations by engaging in forceful measures such as rape and or assault. While this theory does propose one explanation as to why rape is so much higher in sexually permissive societies than that of the restrictive ones, it still does not validate nor justify their deviant actions. While there is no direct opposition to the theory of sexual permissiveness, there are many sociologists who argue that it is not so much the permissiveness that allows rape culture to be prevalent. Rather, rape is widespread because of sexual inequalities. In 1975, Susan Brown Miller was the major inspiration and driving force of the feminist theory of gender inequality. According to Brown Miller, the theory explains rape as an expression of men's dominance over women, which in turn is a reflection of society's sexual inequalities. In other words, the male dominance over women allows men to feel entitled to a woman's body. Thus, when a man's ego is at stake, rape serves as a tool to intimidate a woman so that the man has all the power and the woman remains in her place. As I briefly mentioned earlier, the fight against rape culture is very prevalent in American society today. As a result, we see feminist led movements such as the Me Too movement, which are trying to break the glass ceiling of gender inequality and expose the patriarchal institutions that have allowed this deviant behavior to go on for far too long. We can apply both concepts of relative frustration and gender inequality to the Brock Turner case. Turner, a privileged white male who attended Stanford University, was charged with sexual assault with the intent to rape an intoxicated woman and sexually penetrating an intoxicated and unconscious person with a foreign object. First, we can observe that Turner was sexually frustrated and most likely experienced rejection in a sexually permissive society, especially that of a college campus. This frustration led him to rape an unconscious woman because he did not have to seek consent or permission. In other words, he did not have to fear that his ego would be damaged because the young woman was not conscious to reject his sexual advances. Secondly, we can see that the effects of gender inequality when Turner, along with his father and lawyer, attempted to discredit the victim by arguing that even though she was unconscious, it was still consensual. Additionally, they resulted in victim shaming, claiming that the victim should have known better than to get intoxicated to the point of unconsciousness. Turner was sentenced to only 6 months in prison, but ended up only serving 3 months before being released. This case is a direct reflection of the pervasive patriarchal society in which we live in, that allows men to feel superior to women. Although the ideologies of both the social psychological theory and the feminist theory are slightly different, I believe they go hand in hand because when a man feels relative frustration in a permissive society, they feel entitled to a woman's favors, to a woman's body, which is a direct result of a patriarchal society and the gender inequality that America still faces today.